Alrighty, hey there everybody. Welcome to this week's live training event. Hopefully you've had a good week. Got one more day to go and then we'll be at the weekend mark, right? So we're getting close. Um, hopefully it's been a good week so far. So today we're going to talk about downtime and the importance of that. Um, so obviously the idea of downtime is something that some people actually laugh at. Um, but the statistics show that we're actually getting less and less downtime than we used to in the past. The Bureau of Labor Statistics did a survey, and of the people who responded, 83% said that they spent almost no time during the day relaxing or thinking of just everyday things, not actually focusing on a specific task that they were thinking about. Um, this obviously is not good for a variety of reasons, your health, but productivity also decreases when we don't actually take time to have downtime. Um, because our brains aren't designed to work this way, where we're just constantly stressing it, challenging it to do certain things. Instead, our brain actually needs a rest. It's like if you think of your brain as a machine, that it's just like any machine, it needs a break every now and then. But our way we live our lives, we're overscheduled, we are overworked, and we overdo. And this includes all activities, whether it is work, play, whatever. Our task at hand is we just don't give ourselves, if you will, free time. There's no free time. Um, and part of it is because we think we need to continually be doing something because that indicates that we're productive and we're actually accomplishing things and all of that. However, research is showing that when we are relaxing or daydreaming, that our brain is actually not really slowed down or stopped. It's actually doing a lot of different processes at once. Um, and this isn't key because what goes on during this process is that your brain is actually consolidating all the data that you've accumulated. It's trying to memorize the most important information. Um, and it's trying to rehearse any new skills that you learned. And therefore, it's like ingraining it actually into the tissue of your brain. So that way you can perform that skill, in the future. So all of this is going on when your brain is actually, if you will, daydreaming or spaced out. Um, so this is why our brains are designed to have regular periods of rest, because without it, we are not able to do these functions that are vital to our everyday existence. Um, because our brain has two main modes of operation. One is what we would call the action oriented, where you're concentrating on tasks, you're solving problems, you're trying to process obviously all that incoming data and such, um, and making sense of everything essentially. The other part of our brain, how it operates, is called the default mode network, or DMN. And this is what happens when your mind takes a break and starts to wander. And you go down a rabbit hole and you're just thinking about other different things. Um, but this is key because this is how it's tied to things such as ethics, memories, creativity, and essentially our sense of self. By going off onto DMN mode, essentially, what we're doing is allowing our brain to process everything that we've absorbed in through all the different channels and our senses, essentially. And that allows us to essentially become who we are. It's how we process that information that we take in creates us. Um, so when we um, don't do this, this is becomes part of the problem because we aren't actually processing all that information. The good news is your brain can actually go into DMN mode in the blink of an eye. Quite literally, you can blink and be into DMN mode. Um, so what it accomplishes specifically during small brief interludes, we don't know yet. But you can also be in DMN for hours at a time. A great example of this is if you've ever taken a walk and you're out walking and you know, whether you left from your house or you left from your car, you complete your walk and you get back to where you started from, and all of a sudden you're like, you don't really remember the walk. And it's because your brain is thinking about everything else. And so you're walking, you're moving along, but your brain is actually processing. It's in DMN mode. So if you take a long walk, you can actually be in DMN mode for hours if you're, going to not focus on actual surroundings. Um, so, I mean, the long-held common belief is that we need to be focused on a task consistently in order to make good progress, to get it done, that sort of thing. A renowned psychologist, K. Anders Ericsson, who is from the Florida State University, he spent more than 30 years studying people and how they achieve the highest levels of expertise. So pretty important research, right? Most of us would love to be experts in certain things, whether it's something we enjoy or our work or whatever that is. What his research shows is that most people can engage in deliberate practice, which means pushing yourself beyond your current limits, whatever the activity is. Doesn't matter the activity. Most people can only engage for any type of activity with no distractions, nothing like that, for only an hour. Imagine that. Only 1 hour without having to take a break. Okay, and part of what his research showed is that extremely talented people actually don't practice more than 4 hours a day at whatever their talent is. It could be musician, sports, writing, whatever it is they don't practice, do their work, if you will, more than 4 hours a day. And they are experts in their field. And the other component of this is that according to his research, they found that people are more productive and more engaged in the early morning when their mental and physical energy is readily available. Essentially, their willpower bucket and all of that is there. Obviously, we know from one of our previous videos that willpower is not a bottomless source. You use it up. So this is why it's important to understand is that DMN is essential for us to be successful as far as just living life, and obviously it's a job component. Interestingly enough, in 2010, LexisNexis did a survey of about 1,700 white-collar workers, and these people came from the U.S., China, South Africa, the U.K., and Australia. And it showed that on average, employees spent more than half of their workdays receiving and managing information rather than actually being able to do their jobs. And that many of them were reaching the breaking point of where they would not be able to do anything else because of all this data being thrown at them, essentially. And so this is concerning. Obviously, it should be concerning anyway for especially companies. And the interesting thing to note is that the U.S. does not have any federal laws that guarantee paid time off, sick leave, or even breaks for national holidays. That's all up to the company that you work for. And so on average, most Americans have unused vacation time at the end of the year that just goes away because they didn't use it. And even when on vacation, many people admit to checking email or trying to do some work because they feel that they need to, otherwise they feel guilty because they're on vacation. And so this is obviously a huge problem because vacation time is supposed to be that time that revitalizes your body and mind from all that job-related stress, right? And so if you aren't doing that, then how restful is your vacation? How much of a benefit are you actually getting? It's important to note that any benefits you get from vacation, unfortunately, are gone within 2 to 4 weeks after your time off. So that's pretty concerning because obviously, since people, they don't take vacations, when they're on vacation, they're actually still working, and then they get back, and then shortly after, their supposed benefit is done. So hence why many experts on the study of people's mental health have indicated that we really need to take a look at the way we've structured our work week, where we work for 40 hours 5 days a week, and or more than 40 hours 5 days a week, and then only have 2 days off. So what the recommendations are is that you know employers need to encourage and promote a culture of that employees are allowed to take breaks during the middle of the day in order to get refocused and have that and they should not be banishing them from allowing them to work at home in the evenings after they go home from wherever their place of work is. And as far as employees go, you need to not feel guilty about taking some of that time during the day to take a break. Um, it's only going to actually help you as far as increasing your productivity versus it would get providing the detrimental, oh no, I'm not focusing on my work. So that's a huge component of this. The other component is sleep. It's we know that when you are well rested, you have better concentration, better performance, all of that compared to those individuals who are sleep deprived. Well, in our society, most of us are sleep deprived. So that's a component. And then the other component is the way our body, the way we sleep here in the modernized world compared to how it was done years ago, or in some parts of the world where they take the afternoon siesta. And they're actually finding that our bodies are not designed to sleep just at night and then be awake for an extended period of time during the day. It seems to be our brain wants to have some form of rest at some point in the afternoon. It's some biological function that we have. Hence why usually sometime between 2 to 4, uh, you get that slump in the afternoon where you just feel tired, you don't want to do anything, you sort of want to take a nap, right? Who wouldn't want to take a nap? Um, so this is why there's some train of thought going towards, well, maybe we need to do a better job of structuring the workday to allow people not only to take breaks, but if they need to take a nap in the afternoon to get that refreshed energy, then that should be something that should be encouraged. Unfortunately, obviously, many people don't have the ability to nap at work. And then it comes down to the length of the nap as well, because they're pretty much anything that's over 20 minutes. When you wake up, you have what they call sleep inertia, which is that grogginess feeling, and you gotta wake up, and it's almost like you didn't get enough sleep. Versus if you take a 10-minute nap, or so, 10, maybe no longer than 15, you don't have that problem, and you get all of the enhanced performance and all of that. So that is why short naps, micro naps as they're called, can be so beneficial. So I mean, when you think of it in those terms, if companies allowed their employees to take a 10 to 15-minute nap in the afternoon if they needed it, then wouldn't you want them to take that so that way they would be able to be more productive? Um, so there's a lot that needs to be looked into as far as how we do things, and then obviously that requires a huge shift in our thinking and cultural changes and actual physical changes if companies are allowing that. And some companies do. They have nap rooms, they have break rooms, and encourage their employees if, hey, you need a break, go take one. um, so, and more companies should be following those examples. And so this is one component that can help you with your DMN as far as if you're trying to tap into this is meditation, because it allows you to be able to learn how to toggle your brain back and forth between the two features of being alert and awake and being in DMN. Um, it's not quite clear as far as how long it takes practicing meditation. It just seems to improve over time. Um, and obviously, the more you do it, the better you get at it, and then the better benefit you receive from it. Which is why, obviously, with anything, the more practice, the better it is. Um, So now becomes the question of, well, okay, we need downtime. We all have busy schedules. Well, how do you actually get downtime? And there's some tips as far as how to do this. The first one and most important one is to actually schedule it. Schedule it like it's a meeting. So put it on your calendar and be like, this from this time to this time I'm going to do whatever. And during that time, do whatever it is that you're going to do for your downtime. Is it go outside and go for a walk? Is it sit on the couch and read a book that you enjoy? Is it grabbing a cup of coffee with a friend? Or is it, meditation? Um, so that is part of it. You also have to allow, as we were talking for before, the downtime that you weren't anticipating. It's the downtime that you need when you need that break. Um, and that can be, brief. It doesn't have to be long. But one thing to keep in mind is when you're working on tasks is that for every 90 minutes that you're actually focusing working on a task, you should schedule a break. So they have found that our ability as humans to be able to focus beyond 90 minutes, the concentration, attention span, all of that just goes out the window. So by having a break, at least every 90 minutes, if it's a little bit sooner, that's fine too. So as you're working throughout the day, and that break can, just get up, move around, do something different that's not requiring you to completely focus on whatever the task is. Another great tip is when you're trying to have some downtime is do a non-demanding task. Vacuuming, folding laundry, um, anything that doesn't require your brain to really think. So that way your brain can just sort of wander, your thoughts. Um, this is key. So that way, if you're not comfortable sitting by yourself and just sitting and staring and trying to let your brain do its thing, this is a great way to do it. You're giving your body something to do while your brain's going through this process. I know for me personally, I get a lot of this, especially when I'm on running. Is because obviously once I get moving, get in my groove, my brain just does its thing, and there's been many a times I'm running and all of a sudden I'll think of something, an answer to a problem that I'm like, I just couldn't figure out because I was focusing so hard on it that I wasn't allowing my brain time to actually process it. And that's one of these benefits is by allowing your brain that break, it'll figure it out. It's just you need to give it the space to do it. Another big issue that many people have when they're scheduling their downtime is they have a tendency to worry during this time because it's, there's all these different things you need to do and such. If you think of your brain in this sense, it's like a computer. And when you have obviously limited running memory on a computer, right? It's a certain amount. You can't run more processes than that, otherwise it's not going to work. Your brain's the same way. We can only do so much at once and process so much at once that if you are trying to do downtime, now you're going to be worrying about all these other things. So rather than do that, you can do a couple of things to help with this. One is keep an organized list with folders with stuff in it. It can be on the computer, it can be physical, whatever it is. Put it somewhere and then put it out of your head. So it's written down, you will take care of it at some point, but it's not in your head being floating around in there. And then the other thing is if you need to, actually schedule time to worry. Similar to how you schedule time for your downtime, schedule some time to be like, okay, I'm going to take 5 minutes. I'm actually going to think through whatever is bothering me. So, in another way to deal with if you're uncomfortable with sitting just quietly, try to focus on your senses. What are you smelling? What are you hearing? What are you seeing? And if you truly focus on that, your mind will start wandering. And then you just naturally progress from there. If you really want to get into the meditation, there's apps that can help you guide you through this process if that's something that you wanted to look at. But the other big thing with this is, besides scheduling it, time for it, is turn off your phone, turn off the computer, disconnect from electronics. With social media and TV and computers, all of those are the biggest killers of downtime because of the fact when we're bored, we feel that we want something to do. Or when we're anxious, nervous about something, think of how many times you're at the grocery store and there's a line for the checkout. So you're standing in line and there's a bunch of other people standing in line. You pull out your phone, the other people in line are on their phones, and you're just doing what you're doing, right? Well, before smartphones invention, what would you do? You'd stand in line, look around, see what else they had, maybe talk to the person next to you, start a conversation, whatever the case is. And now we feel uncomfortable with that. So what do? We pull out our phone. So this is the challenge for you, is that, and I try to be aware of this myself, is if I'm waiting in line somewhere or waiting for something, leave my phone where it is. I don't, in my pocket, in my purse, wherever it is, and just leave it. And pay attention to my surroundings. What's going on around me? Hey, you will actually be surprised how much more you're aware. And yeah, you might actually start daydreaming. And as you're standing there waiting mindlessly to move your grocery cart forward, you're just thinking. And that is part of what allows your brain that downtime that it needs. And then another aspect of this is you have to help train your brain. And you can do this because you need to signal to your brain when you're transitioning between different things. For instance, you know when it's time to start work, when it's to leave work, when you're going to meditate, or you're going to spend time with family or friends, or you're going to do a particular activity. So it helps to have a routine. And this will give your brain cues that, hey, okay, we're now transitioning to this phase. And so as the more you do this, the easier it gets. And so whatever you're doing, you want to make sure you're not giving up the activities that you truly enjoy doing, whatever those are. I mean, it can be playing sports, it could be playing an instrument, going to a concert with friends, hanging out with friends at the coffee shop, whatever it is. You don't want to give that up because you want to take those moments of enjoyment and get all that positive emotion and incorporate that into your everyday existence. So, in part of the whole issue with, as far as practicing downtime, is quite literally you need to practice it. You need to schedule it. You need to make it part of your routine and be aware of what's going on. And to me, this is one of the most challenging things is, the more you do something, the easier it gets. Well, how do you start? And that's sort of what we were just talking about, is starting. So when it comes to other aspects, it's important to remember how to incorporate this into everyday existence, because it's something that we must be more diligent about in order for our own mental health well-being. And that is one of the first and most important things, is we need to stop thinking of downtime as a luxury, but as a necessity. It's something that we need to do every day, sometimes multiple times a day, because without it, our brain's not going to work well. We're not going to work well. It's going to impact our job. It's going to impact our relationships. It's going to impact every single aspect of our life. So downtime is key to preventing all of that being negatively impacted. Tony Schwartz, who has written a book on such subjects, one of the quotes from him is that human beings perform best and are most productive when they alternate between periods of intense focus and intermittent renewal. And this is something that, since hearing it, try to live by. This is something that I'm like, I need to do this. And this is something I encourage all of you to do as well. On top of that, there's a couple other things that you need to do. One, get 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night. Don't forego the sleep, okay? Use all of your vacation days. Every single one of them. And when you're on vacation, don't do any work. Leave the work home. Take power naps. If you have the opportunity at work, take a 10 to 15 minute nap. I mean, obviously lunchtime you need to eat lunch, but if you feel that you can have lunch and take a short nap, and that's enough to get you boosted so that way you're ready to go for the afternoon, go for it. And also remember to take small breaks throughout the day. As I said before, no more than 90 minutes without taking a break. If you get up and walk to the bathroom or wherever. And obviously you've given the opportunity to choose to be able to go into DMN mode where you've got some time outside. Outside is awesome because there's all these different soothing sounds and all of that that you can either focus on or not. You get to choose, and your brain will, do its thing. Um, and always remember to tackle the most challenging thing that you've got to do first thing in the morning, because this is when you're freshest, when you're ready to go, and all of that. But by doing all of these things, you're going to be feeling better. You're going to be more productive. Your relationships are going to be better, and it's just you're going to be better overall, right? So, I want to encourage you to do all of these things we talked about, and challenge you to the next time you're waiting in line somewhere, leave your phone in your pocket or your purse or wherever it is, and strike up a conversation with the person next to you, or just happen to look at what's on the rack in front of you. But the more we practice having downtime, the easier it gets, and you'll see more and more benefit. As always, if you guys have any questions, comments, please put them in the comment section or send me a message or whatever. I'd love to hear from you. But otherwise, until then, I will see you guys next week for our next live training session. Have a good rest of the week, and have a good, nice, relaxing weekend, and stay healthy.